Are you ready for a great adventure? Today on The World is Yours. We'll go to the birthplace of one of the most famous and influential composers of classical music, Salzburg, Austria. From one iconic city to another, we'll slither across the city's skyline in the Skytrain toward one of the world's legendary snake farms. We better leave the venom tasting to the snake handlers in Bangkok, Thailand. Our trip will lead us to the American South for some much-needed southern hospitality. But don't let the quaint vibe fool you. There's plenty to do in Charleston, South Carolina. Ready to cross the bridge? It's time for another unforgettable adventure. The world is waiting, and the world is yours. The fourth largest city in Austria, Salzburg, which translated means the Salt Fortress, has one of the most well-preserved city centers in Europe north of the Alps. The historic urban center is a big draw for tourists, as is the mountain scenery around the city. The Old Town in Salzburg, or Altstadt in German, is known around the world for its Baroque architectural style. Formed during the Baroque era in the 16th century in Italy, this style of building modified the Roman architecture of the Renaissance, adding new concepts, shadows, and intensity. Salzburg is also the setting for The Sound of Music, the famous story of the Von Trapp family. Both the Broadway musical and the film take place here. And that's not the only music that Salzburg is known for. It's also the birthplace of the iconic composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The house that Mozart grew up in, known in German as Mozart's Geburtshaus, his birth house, is located at number 9 Getreidegasse in Salzburg. His family lived on the third floor from 1747 to 1773. And Mozart was born here on January 27, 1756. His father, Leopold, was a composer and musician himself of the Salzburg Royal Chamber. The house, built in the 12th century, was developed on the grounds from the garden of Benedictine monks. And in 1703, the Hagenauer family took ownership of the building, which is why it's sometimes referred to as the Hagenauer House. Leopold rented the third-story apartment from the Hagenauers in 1747. And now, the entire building is a historic landmark, with a museum to the young composer established in 1880. The house displays Mozart's early musical instruments. On the third floor, we can see his violin, harpsichord, and early editions of the music he wrote. There are letters from his family, information about his friends, and records of his wife, family, and life in Vienna, Austria. On the second floor, there are exhibits showcasing his love of the opera. It is here where we'll find the clavichord on which he composed the Magic Flute, an opera he wrote in the form of Singspiel, which uses dialogue that is spoken as well as sung. The first floor of the home replicates the house he grew up in, with furniture accurate to the period. There are paintings and documents that depict his early life in Salzburg, including a portrait done by his brother-in-law, Joseph Lang. Not far from Mozart's home is another historic landmark. Right in the heart of the historic center of the city of Salzburg, the Altstadt Salzburg, is where we'll find the Mirabell Palace. The palace, built in 1606, sits on the shore of the Salzach River. North of the city's medieval walls, the palace, originally called Altenau Castle, was built at the request of Archbishop Wulf Dietrich Reichenau. When the Archbishop was arrested in 1612, the palace was left to the next Archbishop, Mark Sidic von Hohenheim's, who changed the name, calling it the Mirabell Palace, from the Italian mirabile, amazing. And as we approach the Salzburg River in the city center, we find ourselves at one of Salzburg's modern architectural treasures, the Marktsteg, named for the painter Hans Machart, who was born in Salzburg. This bridge is only open to pedestrians and bicycles. No cars crossing the river on the Marktsteg. The chain link fence along the bridge is covered in love locks. Tourists and locals alike leave their mark in the form of locks that paint the bridge in beautiful colors and patterns. Which lock should we choose to leave our mark? Before we head to our next global city, we'll want to swing by the landing spot for fast cars and cool planes. That's right, we're stopping at Hangar 7. The Hangar 7 building houses a number of amazing vehicles, historic airplanes and helicopters, top performance Formula One race cars, and the incredible aviation team, the Flying Bulls. And we'll have to catch our own flight if we want to get to our next location. But first, let's test your world knowledge. The seal of the city of Bangkok shows the Hindu god Indra riding what kind of animal? A. Horse. B. Elephant. C. Lion. D. Tiger. The answer coming up when we return to The World is Yours. We're back. Let's find out the answer to our question. The seal of the city of Bangkok shows the Hindu god Indra riding what kind of animal? A. Horse. B. Elephant. C. Lion. D. Tiger. If you said B. Elephant, you're right. The divine white elephant named Arvata, known in Thai by the name Erawan, carries the Hindu god Indra through the clouds, which is why it is also known by the name Abramatanga, meaning elephant of the clouds. On the seal, Indra is holding a Vajra, which in Sanskrit means both diamond and thunderbolt. The official city slogan reads, "As built by deities, the administrative center, dazzling palaces and temples, the capital of Thailand." What it really means is, this is going to be a cool place to explore. Bangkok, the capital city of the Kingdom of Thailand, is also the most populous city in the country, by a long margin, making it what is referred to as a primate city, or a city that is much, much larger than any other urban centers in the nation. Bet you didn't know that term. Well, Bangkok is actually considered an extreme primate city for this reason, as it has a population of 8 million, nearly 13% of the entire population of Thailand. The city of Bangkok dates back to the 15th century, when it was just a village on the Chao Phraya River, a part of the Ayutthaya Kingdom. Its location near the mouth of the river made it an important port for trading. Forts were built on both sides of the river, and the city grew. After the fall of the Ayutthaya in 1767, King Taksin came to power and established his capital here. With growth in trade in Asia during the early 19th century, Bangkok expanded. And later, the investment boom of the late 20th century led to many huge multinational corporations basing their regional headquarters in Bangkok. Now, the city is a major economic center in Asia, as well as a destination for spiritual exploration. Not just a temple, but an entire complex, Wat Pho, also known as the Temple of the Reclining Buddha, can be found on Ratanakosin Island in the Phra Nakhon district of Bangkok. The original Wat Pho temple is one of the oldest in Bangkok, existing before Bangkok became the capital. When King Taksin established the capital at Thonburi, he built his palace beside Wat Arun, on the riverbank opposite Wat Pho. And Wat Pho's close proximity to the palace elevated it to the status of Wat Luang, a royal monastery. When King Rama I moved the capital to Bangkok, he built his grand palace next to Wat Pho. In 1788, he had Wat Pho rebuilt, beginning the foundation of this spiritual complex. And he had images and statues of Buddha from other abandoned temples moved there. Now, Wat Pho is one of the largest and oldest temple complexes in the city, with an area of over 860,000 square feet. There are more than 1,000 images of Buddha, as well as the largest at 150 feet long, that of the reclining Buddha statue, from which the temple complex gets its unofficial name. The most sacred building in the complex is the Phra Ubosat. In this hall, the Buddhist rituals are performed. The temple is also believed to be the first place for public education, with illustrations and inscriptions chiseled in the marble to be used for public instruction. It is also home to a school of Thai medicine and is considered the birthplace of Thai massage, which is still practiced at Wat Pho today. In order to get around each site in Bangkok, we're going to need to take public transit. The public transit system in Bangkok, known as the Bangkok Mass Transit System, or BTS, is an elevated rapid transit system, just like the L in Chicago, Illinois. It is also referred to as the Skytrain. We'll take the Skytrain across the city on one of its two lines, the Sukhumvit line and the Silom line, running at a combined 24 miles through 32 stops. The Skytrain's official name is the Elevated Train in commemoration of H.M. the King's 6th cycle birthday. But that's quite a lot to say, so we'll stick with Skytrain. The first plans for the mass transit system began in the 1980s, called the Lavalin Skytrain, as they were going to be run by the Canadian transit company SNC Lavalin and modeled after the Vancouver Skytrain. But the project was canceled in 1992, and instead, the government focused on roads and expressways to alleviate the traffic in Bangkok. These attempts failed, and it wasn't until the Bangkok Metropolitan Authority was able to find private investments to help kickstart the Skytrain project again that it was finally able to begin construction. On December 5th, 1999, the Skytrain was officially opened. We'll get our BTS Smart Passes ready and transfer to the S2 line to the Saladang station, to the center of town where we'll find the Bangkok Snake Farm at the Red Cross Institute, also known as the Queen Saoapa Memorial Institute, located right at the intersection of Henry Dunant Road and Rama IV Road. This collection of slithering creatures is available for tourists from all over the world to gaze upon. The small auditorium inside becomes one of the main attractions of the farm, as snake handlers walk around showcasing the alluring and, to some, terrifying creatures. Cobras, albino boas, tree snakes. Probably best to let the handlers take care of that. From the exotic airs of Bangkok, we move to the historic winds of Charleston. But first, let's test your world knowledge. South Carolina is known for its lush, green countryside. Which of these state nicknames belongs to South Carolina? A, the Bluegrass State. B, the Pine Tree State. C, the Palmetto State. D, the Cornhusker State. The answer coming up when we return to The World is Yours. We're back. Let's find out the answer to our question. South Carolina is known for its lush, green countryside. Which of these state nicknames belongs to South Carolina? A, the Bluegrass State. B, the Pine Tree State. C, the Palmetto State. D, the Cornhusker State. If you said C, the Palmetto State, you're right. The sable palmetto is a species of the palmetto palm tree, found in the southern lowlands and coastal areas of the United States, as well as some Caribbean islands. They span from North Carolina down to Florida and west all the way to Texas. And they are prevalent in South Carolina, lending itself to the nickname the Palmetto State. Charleston is the oldest city in South Carolina, as well as the largest, just narrowly beating out its capital city, Columbia, for that title. Just south of the midpoint on South Carolina's coastline, Charleston is located at where the Ashley River and the Cooper River meet, forming the Charleston Harbor, an inlet in the Atlantic Ocean. Charleston was originally founded in 1680 with the name Charlestown, in honor of the King of England, Charles II. After the end of the Revolutionary War, the city was incorporated in 1783, and the spelling was changed to Charleston. The history is as well preserved here as its architecture, and Charleston is the place where Southern hospitality is fully realized, as well as its Southern charm. Directly across from the Ashley River, in Dorchester County, is where we'll find Middleton Place, a famous plantation in Charleston, and home to generations of the Middleton family who were very influential in American history. The plantation is home to the oldest landscaped gardens in the United States. Originally started by the planter John Williams in the 1730s, the house was taken over by his son-in-law, Henry Middleton, who would later serve as the president of the First Continental Congress. It's a remarkable piece of South Carolina's history, a place where we're sure to learn a lot about life in the South during this time period. Another time capsule of the antebellum era is preserved in the Governor William Aiken House, also known as the Aiken Red House or the Robinson Aiken House. This structure was built in the 1820s. Now that we've absorbed all we can of these historic Charleston landmarks, it's time to hit the beach. But first, let's test your world knowledge. South Carolina has a number of historic plantations. How many are in Charleston? A, 50. B, 21. C, 11. D, 1. The answer coming up when we return to The World is Yours. We're back. Let's find out the answer to our question. South Carolina has a number of historic plantations. How many are in Charleston? A, 50. B, 21. C, 11. D, 1. If you said C, 11, you're right. South Carolina has multiple historic plantations across the state, with 11 in Charleston alone. It's time to hit the beach. Myrtle Beach on the east coast of South Carolina is one of the hottest tourist locations in the state And not just because of its tropical climate. It's also home to the Myrtle Beach Boardwalk and the Myrtle Beach Skywheel. But those are just a few of the highlights in this awesome beach city. Tourists also come from all over to see one of the big races at the Myrtle Beach Speedway and play a round of golf at one of the many world-class courses. In fact, Myrtle Beach is considered the golf capital of the world because of its roughly 100 golf courses. You could play around at a different course each week for almost 2 years. That's a lot of great golfing. Whether we want to hit the parks, spend the day on the links, or just relax on the white sand beaches, there's no shortage of fun to be had at Myrtle Beach. Well, that wraps up our adventure for today. We visited the birthplace of one of the world's most brilliant composers in Salzburg, rode the high skies through the city of Bangkok in the fast-moving Skytrain, and had all kinds of fun cruising around Charleston, South Carolina. Thanks for joining us on our trip around the world. There are many more adventures to come. Until next time, the world is waiting and the world is yours.